All right, we're all back for the last session of today workshop. The third session is about Perfsonar. We'll have one or two Perfsonar exercises. Um, the link you should have received via email. Otherwise, you can go to this website and click on Perfsonar session 3. Or you also have this link in the chat window at the beginning of today. You will find there. Um, so if I click here, thank you, Melanie. The link is there. If you didn't register, you will have to register um, and check your email. You will receive a notification and get there. I already registered, so I will just enter my credentials. And this is the Perfsonar Lab Libraries. We build like a playground to learn Perfsonar. And there are several labs, 10 labs, from an intro to Perfsonar, Perfsonar Toolkit, graphical user interface, the tools or the elements of Perfsonar, metrics and tools, how to use the graphical user interface, and then how to use the command line to do some tests, for example, latency tests, throughput tests. There are a few other labs, for example, how to build a Mad Dash. So I believe that Jose will be doing this session, and he will be doing, if I remember well, Jose, this is lab number 2, or which one would you start with? Okay, Jose, I cannot hear you.
We will go through lab number 3, which is configuring regular tests using the graphical user interface.
Okay, is this one right?
Yes,
Configuring regular tests.
correct.
Perfect. So feel free to click there. It should a pod should start in a few seconds. So meanwhile, I will go to a brief introduction to this session. I want to give credit to Jose. He's the grad student at University of South Carolina who built these lab exercises. There are a set of 10 labs, as we mentioned before. The lab manuals, they all follow the same format as we discussed in the previous 2 sections. Background information in section 1, and then section 2 to end all the step-by-step directions. I think Jose will be discussing what is covered in lab number 3, which is how to do regular tests, how to use the personal graphical user interface, which is pretty intuitive, in my opinion. I will discuss briefly about the pod. The pod is the set of equipment that is deployed to run these experiments. So in this case, we're not using Mininet. We are using several virtual machines. We have first 3 networks, network 1, network 2, and network 3. We have 2 routers. Those are Linux routers, 3 Perfsonars, so they are like emulating different networks. And we have a client. What will be discussed first is the toolkit. The toolkit is just one component of the Perfsonar layers. Now, this client is used to log in, um, uh, basically has the graphical user interface, and can be used to manage the other Perfsonar nodes. So this is the client. The credentials are first, the IP address is 192.168.2.20. I don't know why it says, oh, 210 in order to log into the Perfsonar 2 using the graphical user interface. So from the client, we're accessing the Perfsonar node 2. And the credentials are admin, admin. So if you need credentials, it's admin, admin. The first labs are the graphical user interface. The second lab that Jose will be showing as the time permit is some tests using the command line interface. And for that purpose, it's going to be used the module called PS Scheduler. So the PS Scheduler manages the execution of network measurements. So we have the network measurements at the bottom. So the user invokes the PS Scheduler using a command line interface. So the PS Scheduler allows to submit remote tasks. So Jose will be showing us how to do this. This is an example of a command to submit remote tasks. With this, Jose, I will let you share your screen and you will be going through these exercises.
Thank you, Dr. Jorge. Let me share my screen. I will jump into the topology. Just some logistic here. Are you able to see my screen?
Not yet.
Sure. All right. So I will jump into the topology. On the right-hand side, we have the pod, and on the left-hand side, I will scroll down the manual. So what we are gonna do in this lab is we are gonna access Perfsonar node number 2 using the client host and configure regular tests using the graphical user interface. So as it was mentioned before, all these labs follow the same structure. It has an overview, objectives. We present the topology. Below this, you will see a table that has all the credentials, which to access the Perfsonar nodes, which basically have the username admin and the password admin. Following, we have an introduction that immerses you into the topic and explain what are the basic outcomes of this lab. And in part number 2, we start with the lab. So the first things that I will do is I will jump to the client host and I will open the web browser. Then I will type the IP address of the Perfsonar node number 2. And I will get access to the graphical user interface that has a dashboard with the status and the daemons that are running there. You might have some issues with the SSL certificates, and you might see a screen like this. So in that case, you just accept the risk and continue. So we are now in the tool.
The IP address that you access, because this is very small, what I can be seen is in the browser you use 192.168.2.10. That is Perfsonar 2.
That's correct. The IP address is 192.168.2.10. So that will redirect you to the Perfsonar toolkit. Well, once we are here, we are ready to configure a throughput test. Notice that in lab 1, you can edit and add the information of about your Perfsonar node, such as the name, the organization, the address, and the contact to contact the administrator. Okay. So what I'm gonna do to proceed is I will scroll down. I will click on Configure Tests, and here I have this screen. I will accept the risk if a credential, if asked, you have to type admin as a username and admin as a password. So it will enable you to jump into the test configuration screen. You can see here the password is admin. Okay. So once we access, we are gonna add the test parameters, and we will set how frequent we want to run these tests. And to do so, we proceed by clicking on Add Test. We choose the type of test that we will run. In this case, is a throughput test, and you will see that the configuration box will pop out. We select a throughput test, and we can add a description about this test. Let's just add a name for this purpose of this lab, throughput test, and then we have to select the interface, which is the ENS32, which is the interface connected to the network 192.168.2/0.0/24. Sorry. We select that. The protocol is TCP. We are gonna set the time interval between each test, which for the purpose of this lab to have the results propagated in the dashboard, we will set it as a 1 minute. So we select here one.
So you might want to emphasize, right? I don't know what is the practice. At least at University of South Carolina, I believe that is way more than 1 minute. You don't want to do that frequently. This is just for the purpose of this test.
Yeah, as I mentioned before, this is just for the purpose of this lab, of this because we want to have the results propagated in the dashboard, so we can see the test running. So otherwise, we have to wait. As usual, these kind of tests are set. The time between these tests are around 1 hour. So that's something that I emphasize here, and I also emphasize in the lab manual. So to proceed, we can also modify the test duration. I won't do that. What I will do is I will scroll down, and I will add the participants to this test. So in this case, I will add a participant, which is Perfsonar number 1, which IP address is 192.168.1.10. I add a description, which is Perfsonar 1 node. Let's click on Perfsonar 1. And once we are done, we verify that everything is correct, and we add this host, and then I will proceed by adding another participant, which is Perfsonar number 3. Just to recap, I will jump into the topology. So we are configuring a test between Perfsonar 2 and 1 and Perfsonar 2 and 3. That's what I am doing here using the client host. So to do so, here I will type the IP address of Perfsonar 3, which is 192.168.3.10, and I will add a description, Perfsonar 3. And proceed, I will add the host. So once we are done with this, we have the 2 participants, and we are ready to save the test. So to save the test, we click on OK. Then we will save the test by clicking on Save. All right. That means you can see here that we have a test that is called throughput. It's a throughput test, and you can see the details on this dashboard. And to see the results, the throughput results, we have to jump into the public dashboard by clicking on the upper right hand side, view public dashboard. So as it is indicated here. Once we are back here, we will see that the test already started, and we should be able to see the results between Perfsonar 2 and 3 and between Perfsonar 2 and 1. So I'm just waiting this to load, and I will scroll down to the dashboard. I will, as it is mentioned here, we have to wait like some minutes to get the test results propagated by. But anyways, that's not a problem. We can continue adding another test, and then we will see the previous test results in the dashboard. So let me just update this. All right, I will configure a latency test now by clicking on configure test again. I will add a test. I will select the type of test, which is the one-way latency test. This is just an example. We add a tag, a description for this test. Oh, sorry. Latency test, and we select the interface, and at the end we select we add the participants. This test has some advanced parameters that we are not going to cover in this lab. I will add the information of persona number 1 as I did before, and the same for persona number 3. Once it is ready, we click on OK, and then we are ready to save the test. So this test has been added, and we should be able to see the results, at least of the previous test, propagated in the public dashboard. To do so, we go on the upper right hand side, view public dashboard, and we should be able to see the values of the test that we configured. I just want to remark that the tests are running between Persona 2 and 1 and Persona 2 and 3, but it takes time to get propagated into the dashboard. So what we can see now, for example, is the previous test that we added, which is the throughput test. We can see here the throughput between this node and this node, which is Perfsonar 2, Perfsonar 1, and Perfsonar 2 and Perfsonar 3. And that's how we add regular tests using the graphical user interface. I will stop doing the lab here because, as you've seen, the process is pretty straightforward. I just want to talk a little bit more about this lab that continues explaining how to add delay into the routers here in the topology. So this is just with the intention to alter the results that we observe in the dashboard. And that's all for this activity. And we are ready to jump into the other lab, which is lab number 5.
So Jose, while you prepare that lab number 5, there is an observation from Amit. Before I forgot, I wanted to ask something off topic. I would like to understand the platform portal is set up. How the platform portal is set up, how you can answer this at the end. And sorry for the distraction. Amit, I will be happy to talk about that after Jose's presentation. I will be describing this and describing our partnership with the institutions and the network development group. So I will be addressing that.
All right. Meanwhile, I will explain. As we did before, we will use the same pod, but in this case, we will use the CLI to configure regular tests using the pscheduler command, which allow us to schedule the same test as we did with the graphical interface, but it has some other features that are interesting, like selecting the tool that we want to use, and also other capabilities like storing the test and repeating, and also configuring remote tests that is also covered in lab 4 and lab 5.
So there is a
usual.
question. There is a question. I just want to address now that you have the topology there. How does pscheduler work into this, please? That is done. So could you describe at high level, now that you have the topology there, how does pscheduler work? Very high level, then you will go to the exercise, is my understanding.
Absolutely. Pscheduler is the command that coordinates all the measurement tools that Perfsonar has. Let me show you. It's easier. We have the topology on the right-hand side, and on the left-hand side, I will show the Perfsonar stack. Pscheduler manages the interaction between the tools, and what it does is it schedules local and remote tests using any of these tools, and depending on the configuration, it will propagate it to the dashboard, or it will archive into a database. That's what basically pscheduler does.
So it will connect if you use the pscheduler between Perfsonar 1, which is in the network yellow, and Perfsonar. If you are in Perfsonar 1, you can schedule tests between Perfsonar 1 and Perfsonar 2 and Perfsonar 1 and Perfsonar 3, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
So as the other labs, we have the overview, objectives, the lab topology, and the credentials. In the first few pages, we provide an introduction about the lab. This introduction is very interesting. It will talk more in depth about the pscheduler functionality and what is this used for. And also we provide some details about the pscheduler command, which is the one that we are going to use in this lab. So we will start by running a one-way ping test using a scheduler. No, in this case is Perfsonar 1. So I will jump into this. I will type the credentials admin, password admin, and I will schedule a latency test by issuing this command that I will highlight here, which is the scheduler task. We indicate the task, which is latency, and specify the source 192.168.1.10 and the destination is Perfsonar 2. Okay, so we execute this command, and you will see that the task is being submitted, and you will see that this test will run using the tool one-way ping, which is the one that is selected by default using to run a latency test in the pscheduler using the pscheduler command. So here we see that the test started in about 7 minutes, and it will end in about 20 minutes.
7 seconds, you mean?
Oh, sorry. Pardon me, 7 seconds. So we have the results. I will refer to the manual. We'll see here the tool that was used, which was the one-way ping. Here is a useful tip, which is in order to scroll these results to go up, you just hold Shift and use the page up command, and you will be able to go up. So you will see here the packet statistics. You will see the one-way latency statistics, and the histogram of the latency and the standard deviation and some common jitter measurements. This table is explained more in detail in the lab manual. You will see here the output that may change in every run depending on the resources allocated to the virtual machine. You will see the table that is summarized here, and the histogram of the distribution of the latency distribution. All right. So this was a test that ran using the default tool of latency, which is one-way ping. However, in pscheduler, we have the possibility to select which tool we want to use. In this case, we will select the two-way ping tool by issuing the command pscheduler task, select the tool, which is ping for two-way ping, latency, source is 192.168.1.10, and the destination is 192.168.2.10. Oh, sorry. Have a typo. Apologize for that. So now we are submitting the task. You will verify that the tool that we are selecting is two-way ping, and we should have the results. The test will start in about 7 seconds, and it will end in 20 seconds. We can see here the same procedure for the other tests, and also in the lab manual, you will have the result explained, which is in this case is very similar to the one-way latency one-way latency results. So that's a way how we select a tool to run a test using using pscheduler command. Here we have something similar, which is pscheduler considers the round trip time task as a separate task, which consists in just selecting the RTT, task, the RTT parameter in this case, and you will be able to see a similar result to the one we have when we run the ping command in Linux. So I will skip this and then I will jump to the throughput test, which have a similar syntax. And the default tool in this case will be iperf3. So that means if we type the command pscheduler task throughput, the source is 192.168.1.10 and the destination Perfsonar 2. You will see that the default tool is iperf3. Here we go, iperf3, and the result will be something similar to the one we have when we use the iperf3 command in Linux, because we are selecting that tool. And pschedulers summarize the results of iperf in a table below. So
Thank you.
In this case,
Jose.
we are waiting for the results, and we can observe here the output.
So Jose, is there any? It seems that all the pscheduler tasks are somehow similar. You just identified that. Is there any one that is a little bit different, or any suggestion that you have when we do that?
Yeah, in this lab number 4 is very basic. It will show you how to the format of the commands, of the scheduler commands, and the output, and how to select a tool. For more advanced features, we can jump to lab number 5, which has all the other features of pscheduler, which consists of storing the results, repeating the task, and transmitting the results to an external node. So to do so, you have to do lab number 5.
All right.
And
so I have another question, because you didn't mention here, but we never adjust the buffer size. And if you have a network latency is too large, right, you have to adjust the TCP buffer size.
Absolutely. In this lab, we are just touching the pscheduler command. However, that question is answered after we know. I will just jump into the lab lists. Here we can see that after finishing with the pscheduler labs, we directly jump into that issue, and we show how to adjust the bandwidth delay product and the TCP buffer size in order to mitigate and reduce the impact of high latency in our tests.
Okay, so in that case, otherwise, if you don't adjust the TCP buffer size, really you will not measure accurately, because the right.
Absolutely. The aim of this lab is to go step by step, and we don't want to add too much information in one lab in order to obscure it and make it difficult for somebody who is just starting with this.
Okay.
And
that's what.
Yes, sir.
Jose, I will interrupt you. I apologize, because we're getting close to our.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We'll wait in case there is any question for Perfsonar, related to Perfsonar. Right. Thank you, Jose. And again, these labs will be available. All these will be for 90 days if you register, but can be extended. Just need to contact the organizer, and that will be extended. In 1 or 2 minutes, Jose, there is a question here about Perfsonar. Let's see if we can answer, or somebody in the community can answer. So the question is, does Perfsonar automatically bypass packet filtering or circuit level gateway firewalls?
Yeah, I didn't go in deep in those questions, but that depends too much on the organization. I think in the Perfsonar documentation website, you will find all the steps, and you will see the list of steps that you have to enable into your organization in order to run a Perfsonar node. Let's say the ports that Perfsonar or that Perfsonar node is required to have open in order to exchange information. And we touch that a little bit about the permissions of running tests and for how long and which nodes we are sharing the information in lab number 10, which corresponds to configuring pscheduler limits, which is a file that set the limitations of the test that a Perfsonar node is running.
I will keep it open in case anybody wants to add to that question. That's Perfsonar automatically bypass packet filtering. Thank you, Jose. And I will just spend 1 minute to the question that was before. Amit asked about the platform, and I don't want to take that much time because we're already on time. Jose, if you let me share my screen. We'll try to open here. 1 second. All right, so this platform, first I will give credit to my friends and partners in one of the NSF projects that we have. We have an NSF Advanced Technological Education grant that help deploy this platform that we're using. It's between Stanley Community College, the excellent colleagues. I enjoy working with them. Network Development Group. I will give credit to them. They are amazing. So feel free to visit their website, netdevgroup.com. And this platform, we're calling distributed platform, distributed academic cloud. So we have servers at USC. So many of you are accessing virtual machines running at USC. However, if you are closer to North Carolina, let's say you are connecting from Virginia, most likely, you are using resources from Stanley Community College. So there are servers that are distributed in the 2 states, and they are being combined by a software that was developed. A little bit more of details. There are resources, hardware, memory, CPU, and storage, right? In South Carolina, North Carolina, also in Illinois. I think NDG has a data center in Illinois. Again, the credits for NDG, they have an orchestration system so that anybody, when it reserve, let's say a pod to play with Perfsonar. Again, if this user is in Virginia, what is going to happen is we'll go to the orchestration system, and this is coming from Virginia. Closest is North Carolina, so a pod will be taken by or for this user. And there are some more details, but I probably that will hopefully will at least partially answer this. So there are VMs, each pod, whenever we use a pod to conduct an exercise, we really are reserving a virtual machine, one or more virtual machines that could be somewhere in these data centers that we mentioned before. In our case, in South Carolina, what we have is we have 3 big servers that are hosting virtual machines, and then a management server. This is in our campus network, and that is the arrangement. There is so that's the quick answer in few questions. Amit, I will be happy to expand this description if you wish. So, Cass, I think we're done with the presentations. I will switch back to you. And please, it would be great if you can give us a feedback. We always try to improve. In the chat window, there is a link to a survey. Thank you, everyone.